go ahead and get started, and the format today, we're going to ask each of the head coaches to make a brief opening statement, and then we will open it to questions, and we just ask that when we have the period of open questions, you just indicate which coach you're directing the question to, and we'll go from there. So let's start with Coach O'Connor from the University of Virginia, and ask for a brief opening comment.
Thanks, Rich. I would first like to say to the three visiting schools and their administrations that are here, on behalf of the University of Virginia, we'd like to welcome everybody here to the Charlottesville Regional. We're excited to be hosting another regional here. We've got three great teams here this weekend that have joined us, and all four of the schools that are here this weekend have earned the right to play at this time of the year, and I believe that the visiting coaches and the players and the administrators will get great hospitality here in Charlottesville this weekend, and I know that our fans will treat them with class and represent our university the right way. So I just want to welcome everybody here for this regional. We're obviously excited to be in the NCAA tournament again. It's been a fun year for us in the Atlantic Coast Conference. It's been a year where we've had a lot of development and maturity of different players throughout the year. Lots been made of the youth that we have in our ball club, but our team has played this year as consistent, I think, as we have had a club play here in my time, and we're just really excited to get started with NCAA baseball.
Thank you, Coach. And Virginia and Army will play the first game tomorrow, so we'll jump to Coach Sottolano from Army. And your comments, Coach.
Thank you. Once again, it's good to be back. Seeing that name pop up on the screen right back in Virginia was sort of a pleasant surprise. I thought last year's regional was extremely well ran, very professional, right from the coaching staff, but all the way up through the administration and the town and the city. So we're pleased to be here. I'd like to congratulate all the coaches. Out of the four teams here, I think we're probably the youngest, the newest. These coaches are used to being at regionals and NCAA tournaments. Obviously, we've had some success to come here as of late, but it's great to be here. I've heard a lot about these institutions over the years. First time playing for me against Elon, also against Wilmington. So we're very pleased to be here. Again, a very, very young team. I'd like to echo what Coach said a little bit in terms of his team at Virginia. But we're talking about a team who's only bringing back 10 players, only 2 players on the field that started last year for us. So it was sort of a David versus Goliath all year for us, very young. Not one junior or senior had started before this year. So this is a very young team, a fun season, a developmental season to see what happened early and then how we developed as of late. So we have to be extremely tough and very disciplined in what we're doing to compete against these 3 schools. We understand that, been working hard at that. We look forward to the challenges. And again, I'd like to thank everyone for having us here and congratulate these coaches. Thank you.
Coach Scout from UNCW, if we could ask you for a few comments.
Well, we're certainly excited to be back in postseason as well, and I would echo the congratulations to all the schools. This year's club is a little bit different for us than some we've had in the past. We're probably not as athletic as some of the clubs we've had, and we really have 4 starters back off of last year's regional team, and as far as position players. So the contributions we've received from a number of players that were returning but spent very little time on the field for us last year, and then a couple freshmen has been fun to watch. We know that for us to have a chance here, we are going to have to play extremely clean defensively. We're going to have to pitch it as well as we have all year. And, I think our pitching staff's been very consistent throughout the course of the year and given us a chance. We're a club that has to move runners, and we have to count on some big 2-out RBIs to have a chance to win some ball games. So we're tremendously excited to be here in a great venue. It's my first time in the stadium as it's been redone and rebuilt. Was here back in the 80s, but I've seen it on television. I've seen Brian's clubs play on TV during the course of the year and in other postseasons. And what a great venue here with the fans. And our kids are looking forward to every day here.
Thank you, Coach. Coach Kennedy. Eli.
Yeah, I'll echo sentiments as well. Congratulations to all three schools. I think from what I know of these coaches, these are going to be three very well-coached teams, and it's going to present a great challenge for our program. And speaking of Elon baseball and the season we've had, we had some high expectations coming in, a lot of seniors on this club, and it felt like at the start of the season this was a possibility. And then we ran through some injuries, and at our level, at the mid-major level, I guess, so to speak, it's tough and challenging. And I think Brian will tell you, and even at the ACC level, when you lose players, it takes its toll on your team. And we went through some of that. We had a stretch where we had a tough part of our schedule where we played Carolina 3 times, followed that up with Mark and his club at Wilmington when they were playing extremely well, and then went down to Louisville when they were playing really well, and we didn't fare too well, and I thought that took a toll on our club, and we didn't respond to that too good, but we hung in there and kept fighting, kept getting after it a little bit, and then we finally peaked at the right time. We had a great tournament where we got a few guys healthy, got a few guys back, and played extremely well. We've got quality starting pitching. We feel like we'll have a chance to be in some games, and that's important, obviously, in an event like this. So we're pleased to be here, very excited, and know that we're going up against 3 very well-coached teams, and we're going to have to play well to compete, but we're looking forward to that challenge.
Okay, let's open it up. Questions for the coaches? Hank. Go ahead. Sorry.
Ryan, you guys are accustomed to having at least one other major program here. Is it different with? It kind of occurs to me that college baseball is maybe different because the whole Big Five and all that. It's more a southern thing, and does this feel like the same kind of situation with accomplished programs and stuff? Not necessarily Oklahoma, but the accomplishments and the histories of these programs is pretty good.
This is what's great about college baseball, okay? You don't have to be, there's no other sport that you have college baseball programs competing at the highest level of college baseball that are not necessarily in a major conference, okay? I mean, you legitimately have, a lot of teams that can compete at the highest level of college baseball. You see teams in the College World Series, Cal State Fullerton, they're not competing in basketball or in football for national championships. Even though we've only, in my time here at Virginia, we've only played Wilmington once and Elon once and Army once, I know the caliber of these programs. So the fact that somebody isn't from an SEC or an ACC or a Big 12, Pac-12, something like that, in our sport, it's a non-factor because there's great coaches, there's great players, at all these schools, and this weekend, just like any other weekend when we're in NCAA play, we are going to have to play great baseball in order to have a chance to move on.
Brian, obviously with Brandon on tomorrow.
Right.
He talked about how, or teammates talked about how he doesn't feel these pressure moments. He's just kind of goes with it. Is that a big reason why? I mean, obviously he's been your Friday guy all year, but how comfortable are you in him putting him in that role because he kind of grasps this moment, doesn't really feel the pressure?
Well, I'm very comfortable with starting Brandon Waddell tomorrow. He started the opening game of our season as a true freshman. We could tell pretty quickly when this young man got here that he had a tremendous amount of poise. He's a really good athlete. It just not much phases him, So the fact that this is his first NCAA tournament that he's played in, and the fact that he's getting the ball in the opening game, one, he deserves it. He's started on Friday for us all year long, and I think he's pretty good, and he's got the poise and the maturity to be able to handle the situation.
I saw will Woolley be your guy tomorrow? And if so, his control problems last year against Virginia just seemed so out of out of character? Were we able to pinpoint what happened? Just wondering if that.
Well, if we could pinpoint what happens to most of your players on any given day, we'd be a lot better coaches. But I'd like to think that Chris is a well-respected athlete, a fierce competitor. And yes, Chris will throw tomorrow, and we're looking forward to having him go back on the mound again. Whether it's in our NCAA Regional, whether it's the first game of the year, middle of the year, conference championship, it's still another baseball game. And having been here for another year, I think Chris is looking forward to that opportunity.
Joe, you're back here. You alluded to it in your opening statement. This is a different team from 1 year ago. Just talk about your journey this year, maybe a little different way you got here to this regional than you did 1 year ago, and how fulfilling this year has been for you.
Yeah, it wasn't always fulfilling. It started out a little bit more difficult than we'd like, but it's a very young team. Talking to a team of 24 freshmen and sophomores, and again, not one junior and senior that started before the season. It had, some real good pitching, I think, back in terms of Chris and Gunnar Carroll and those types of guys, and it was through the ups and downs, no different than what anyone else goes through. I think some injuries and those types of things. But fought through it, became a lot closer of a club for it. I think the leadership of the academy really helped. Guys pulled together in adverse times, and then sort of developed a little bit of tenacity and toughness along the way. And the key for us is a little bit like Coach Scoff said, we have to make sure that we get a lot of 2-out RBIs, compete, put guys in scoring position, get guys moving, doing some things that can make things happen. And that's not always an easy thing to do. When the opposing team's playing a ton of strikes and picking up the baseball, that's not always easy. But we have to really be tough and disciplined in order to be successful. And that sort of came through towards the end of the year.
Coach Sottolano, how much different is it to be back this year? Is there less of a wide-eyed feeling and more of a belonging feeling, even though you guys are so young? Does it start to feel like what Army does?
I'd like to think so. I think all of our programs talk about being successful year in and year out. There's teams. Teams make it to the regionals every once in a while and are successful every once in a while. Programs sustain. You look at Elon, you look at Wilmington, you look at Virginia, they've sustained. And I'd like to think that we've sort of developed that reputation over the last several years. I hope so. It's something we talk about in our recruiting process, something we're going to talk about for years to come. And I don't know if there's a bright-eyed, I don't know if there was a bright-eyed last year, so to speak. I think it's something that hopefully you can develop within the culture of your club to expect it. I think you don't take it for granted, but you expect to be here and you expect to try to compete. The biggest thing for us is when you get to this stage or you get to this level, just like any other day, you want to play well. We like to say every day in our program's championship day, whether it's practice, whether it's a game. So for us, tomorrow is another day, and we have to take it as such.
Brian, obviously, with Cogswell, but might be able to help you out in other areas this week.
Yeah, Brandon Cogswell will be very limited this weekend. He won't play the field. He won't bat. Maybe pinch run. I don't know. I'm waiting to hear back from our trainer and our doctors whether that's even a possibility. Outside of that, he won't contribute on the field to us this weekend.
You mentioned younger players maturing as the season went along. Have you ever had a player go through that process as rapidly as Mike, the kid who wasn't even starting until mid-March, and now his first team All-ACC, leads the league in slight percentage of batting average?
Right. Well, Mike Pappy's development this year is really a great lesson to all players on our club and any club. Here's a kid that, last year was hitting in our 4-hole as a true freshman for the first 30-40% of the year, and then didn't play much the back half of the year last year. Comes back this year, he's not in the starting lineup for the first 15, 18 ball games. One might say maybe he's a little bit buried. Fisher's doing a good job in left field. Downs is doing a good job. McCarthy's doing a good job, and Pappy's not getting any time. And we're down at Clemson, and all of a sudden you plug him in there for a couple of ball games, and he gets some game-winning hits and has a 4-hit day, and then goes on and has a all-conference kind of year. There's a great lesson in there to all the players that you might feel like things aren't going your way and you're not getting your opportunities, but if you hang in there and have the right attitude, that it has a chance to work out for you. And that's why it's worked out for Mike Pappy, because he had the right attitude even when he wasn't playing, and he was prepared for his opportunity. So certainly, his development this year has been pretty impressive. You know, it's been fun to watch. As good as anybody that we've had.
Coach Kennedy, to run through the Southern Conference tournament, how much, coming into a weekend like this where you could play 3 or 4 games or 5 or 6, how much do you draw from having had enough pitching to get through that?
Yeah, well, certainly getting through that gives us energy and life. We're here. Without that, we're not here. So certainly that's a big lift in itself. But we found out some things about some kids that, in terms of toughness, that maybe we hadn't put them in that role before. And in an event like this, you can bring them back a little earlier than you would all year. So I think you learn a few things about some kids that you haven't done because, you know, when you're playing your 3-game set during the year, you're not doing those kind of things. You're managing totally different. And then we were put in a position where our backs were against the wall a little bit, and we asked some things out of some kids that normally you wouldn't. They responded very well. So we know that there's some stuff in there that these kids can dig from and learn from and, you know, apply to this situation if we get in that situation. So I think we learned a lot from that.
Coach Scott, Brian was mentioning how college baseball is one of those sports where conference affiliation often doesn't matter. You don't have to be from one of the power leagues. What to say about the Colonial this year? I think this is the first time since '01 that 3 teams got in, and William & Mary gets an at-large after Towson wins return.
Our league was very good this spring. A number of players that have grown and matured over the last couple of years in several programs. You know, Towson played extremely well. You look at the record and you say, you know, what are you talking about? They're 29-28. They're a solid club. Defensively, I don't know that there's too many better than them defensively. I think they turned 80-some double plays this year. They're very solid. You know, maybe a little bit short pitching depth-wise, but very good club. Northeastern's pitching maybe as good as anybody's on the East Coast. They're top 5 guys. Georgia State played very well. William & Mary's pitching and position players figured out a way to get it done every day, and they played extremely hard. So our league continued to grow through the course of the year, and you know, I feel like we're headed in the right direction, getting back to where we were at one time. You know, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, our league was anywhere from the 3rd to the 5th best league in the country, RPI-wise. And then we lost some schools and had, you know, some changes, and you know, baseball wasn't quite as important for some. And now I think there's quality coaches throughout the conference, a number of very, very good players. And I'm excited about the fact that College of Charleston's coming in our league next year, which will add. And then, of course, Elon and Mike's group will be coming in the following years, which will certainly improve our conference even more.
Scott, what did the win against North Carolina not only do for your team, but how can that help you, you know, in a tournament situation where you're playing some powerful clubs?
Well, hopefully it continues to give them the confidence necessary to compete against some of the best teams in the country. You know, we did that on the road. Anybody that saw that game knows that we were pretty ugly the first 3 innings. It was not pretty. We didn't play well. We were down 6-0, and found a way to work back in it and scored 6 to tie in the 4th, and then got great pitching, played well defensively the rest of the way, and then had a couple big 2-out knocks. And that's, you know, it's the toughness part that Brian and Mike and Joe have talked about with all the kids. You know, it's just a matter of hanging in there, continuing to work, continuing to stay positive, and do it as a group. You know, if one pitcher's struggling on any given day, it's another one that's coming out of the pen to pick them up. And that's one plus for our ball club this year is they've been there for each other. And they've got a great, you know, they really have a short memory. This group's got a short memory. We've had some bad days, and they've eliminated it and come back and played well the next day.
David?
Coach Sottolano, Dakari Cook is a local young man for us. I know he hasn't gotten a lot of playing time for you this year. Could you talk a little bit about his development as a sophomore?
Sure. Dakari started out the season we thought was going to be in the thick of things. Didn't play as well as what he had hoped for or what we had hoped for. But then he sort of picked it up as of late and saw significant time even in our championship series. Hard-working young man, very athletic. still developmental. I still think he's probably going to be as successful as he wants to be in life, let alone baseball. Very bright young man, very charismatic, and I think his better days are ahead of him, even in baseball.
Greg?
Coach Connor, you talked a little bit about the development of your team, and you've got some guys in Greg Annie, Silverstein, and King, who have not only been a part of the success over the last few years, but also had some personal as well as physical setbacks. How is it with the younger group to have guys like that who have not only had to deal with maybe some upsets in the game, but also upsets in life?
Well, I think that those players that you mentioned, Greg Nanny and Silverstein and King, they've been around here for 4 and 5 years. It's been certainly noted the personal struggles some of them have had, and also the physical things that they've went through. I'm sure each one of the coaches sitting up here, each has stories about players on their team that have overcome adversity and things like that. For the younger players, it just provides them a great example that if you hang in there, you stay positive, you stay with your group, stay with your team, that good things can happen and things will work out. And in each one of those cases, read Greg Nanny, hurt off and on for 3 years. The kid's a good player, and finally this year he's completely healthy and he's showing what he's capable of doing. And Scott Silverstein's shoulder surgeries a couple times, and now he's pitching the best baseball he has since he was a junior in high school. And obviously Jared King's, been dealt with plenty of blows in his life, and that kid's just kept coming, fighting back. And it's just, great inspirational leaders to those young players, that maybe they have a tough day, have a tough week, and, you can look around at those guys and be good examples of how you got to pick yourself up there and get back in there and keep fighting.
Brian, you've been in this from pretty much every angle, from player to manager of an upstart team, to favorite. On a weekend like this, what is the single most important element?
To winning?
Yeah. Tell me the school.
It's just consistency. It's playing like you have all year. You can't try to do more than what the player, what their ability is. That's it. You gotta pick up the ball, throw it across the field. You gotta throw strikes, and you gotta get big 2-out hits. You go back and look at all these regionals in the past, or you look at them across the country. Most of the time that's what it comes down to. If you don't pick up the ball and throw it across the infield and throw strikes, you're not going to have a chance. The competition's too high. You're going to face too good a pitching and too good a lineups that you just don't get away with mistakes like that. So I think it's just consistent, fundamental baseball play.
Are there any other questions? If not, coaches, thank you. I know you all have a meeting